Welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson, a weekly show helping you grow, prosper, and evolve. Today, episode 345, Working with Your Thoughts. And now, Experience of the Soul.
Hello and welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I am the host, and I'm here today with my very talented producer.
Thank you so much. I shared the admiration for your talent as well. I love that, you know, we've been able to like sing together and you play guitar and you sing. I mean, I know that's been a big part of your family and stuff, but I think that's such a cool thing that, you have that talent background also.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome, everybody, to Experience of the Soul podcast. This is episode 345. Today is Monday, January 27th. We're really excited to be here with you today for our episode titled Working with Your Thoughts. Before we get into it, a couple of shout outs as always. We want to shout out to the town of Orlando, which is our hometown. We never actually have done a shout out to Orlando, not since I've been on.
It's been a while.
Yeah. So thank you, Orlando listeners. Of course, you know, that's a big chunk of our downloads come from Orlando every single week. And we're super appreciative, you know, of the dedication,
Absolutely.
that you keep coming back for more, you know.
Yeah, you're not tired of it yet. Well, it was funny today. My son came home with a friend and I was in another room and I had the podcast playing on my Alexa and they stood still when they came in the door because they were not sure if we were recording the podcast
like,
or what was happening because
it
was filling the house because I was alone. And so it was filling the whole house and they stood there like, what do we do?
That's great.
Oh, that was sweet. Oh, that was sweet. So thank you, Orlando. We appreciate it. And as always, please give us the feedback if we can serve you any better. We're just honored to have you along the journey with us, most definitely. Yes. And also another special shout out to my sister-in-law, Sherry Anderson.
Yeah. I picked her because she's been, you know, active on social media, liking things and commenting on things. Yeah. So I thought, and I didn't know that. I didn't know we were showing nepotism with the shout out.
Well, that's all right. Sherry,
totally.
Sherry is fantastic. And thank you, Sherry. You know, I love you. And so glad that you and my brother found each other. They are a very sweet couple. They're big dancers. And so they're the type that they do all these cruises every year and they're always dancing. No matter what I'm doing, I just texted him yesterday and he's like, I totally want to talk to you, but I'm dancing right now. I'm going to have to get back to you. Oh yeah, they're awesome. So Sherry, Jeff, love you both. And thank you for listening. I love it.
I do want to pop back real quick to what you had mentioned just a moment ago about the Alexa skill for the podcast, which we talked about it when it was first available, but we haven't mentioned it in a while. So those of you with those smart home devices, you are able to just say, Alexa, play the Experience of the Soul podcast, and it will play the most recent episode for you. I've done that. We just got Alexas for Christmas, so I've not had one up until this point. And
I'll tell you what it'll do. Once you start listening to something that's a subscription, like the show that has a new show every week, it will send you a notification, right? I don't know if that's happened to you.
Yes, it has. Yeah, that there's a new episode. Yeah. I'm like, I know.
Like I made it. Yes. I felt like I had finally arrived when I was on Alexa podcast. So, it'd be fun if some of our listeners would record that and send it to us on social media. We're really, friends, trying to reach more people, and I like to do an organic reach. I don't like to pay for numbers. It just feels out of integrity to me. But if you're excited about what we're doing and you want to help, that'd be a fun thing to do. Take a video of yourself asking Alexa to play it, send it to us, share it on social media. I think that would be fun.
Absolutely. I was thinking actually it might be fun to do a little challenge of sharing the episodes or sharing anything from our social media that has an impact on you. Really like make this year all about, getting the word out there, helping other people who are interested in being on the spiritual journey and advancing and growing and evolving in that way. Share some of our content with them. That would be amazing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think of all the problems in our world today. And I think if everyone were living from the soul, all those problems would cease to be.
I thought that
we would, right?
Yeah, yes. Many times. Yeah.
And not just from my work. There are many people doing great, great work. But I'm just saying the idea that if we knew God loved us, if we knew that God was within us and within every single person, and that we were seeking to live a better life, a soul-filled, soul-guided life, what would the world look like? And it would look very different from the way it looks today. So
100%.
Yeah. And it's why I keep doing it. None of us are getting rich off the podcast. We're trying to get the message out. Our expenses are being covered, which is wonderful. And we love that. But to continue it going forward, the more people we have on it, then the more people's lives are changed for the better. And of course, there's always a financial component in today's world, studio time and all this kind of stuff. Is not free. Getting it out there on Buzzsprout and the various places that we have to put it. If we can buy advertising, it would help more people know about it. So, friends, just give it thought. But any way of sharing is good for all those reasons. But what we really are doing is trying to get people to wake up. That's the number one goal. And we're grateful for all of you that are supporting it. But we're just trying to think of new ideas for ways to share and, get people excited to live from the soul.
Absolutely. And we're also playing around with different ideas of how we're going to move it forward ourselves. We've talked about, this year being the year that we go back to having some guests occasionally on the show, which is an exciting thing. It's like, we have some great ideas about who we might want to bring in, and would love to hear your ideas about who you might like to see sit down for a conversation with us.
Yeah, most definitely, friends. So welcome to the show today. We are excited, and I can't believe January's almost over, Sean. It's crazy.
I know. It's like flying by. It felt like yesterday when it was like, oh, Happy New Year. And here we are. We're about into the next month.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Yeah. So welcome officially, everybody. We're hitting episode 345, Working with Your Thoughts.
Oh, wow. Working with your thoughts. Friends, this is the work that must be done in consciousness. So, if you're a listener on the show, that you've been on this spiritual journey a long time, probably. Sean and I were talking earlier that usually people find the serious spiritual journey later in life. I got real serious about my journey around 30 is when I started meditating and doing things like that. Even though I'd been involved in spiritual things my whole life, my journey took off around 30. And if you found your way to the show, probably you've been on the journey a while. And what you know is that the spiritual journey is full of ups and downs, twists and turns, challenges and joys. And what we seek to do is live a soul-centered life. We seek to, as I often say, live from the center. As a matter of fact, this month I've been working on nearly every day my I am of the day, instead of being one word as it often is for me. This month it's been most days I am living from the center. In other words, living from the center, living from soul is my goal. And I have discovered, as I affirm this in the morning, I am living from the center, that I want to rise up to that I am. I want to rise up to that goal and that spiritual intention. I am living from the center. And it's a great way to get us into this topic today, just thinking about that. I am living from the center, because if you've been on the journey a while, like I said, and I know you have been, then you know that as you focus on the higher desires, right, that you start to live for more purpose, as you start to live more from the heart and soul, that you get more in touch with your purpose. You get more in touch with your dreams, goals, and desires for what God wants to do in and through you. And we talked a lot about that. As a matter of fact, earlier this month, we were talking about how in the new year, it's not about what I want, but what is God doing through me, in and through me, this year. And so what we start to realize is that we have to really work with our thoughts. because all behavior begins with thought. And it is a very easy thing to say, okay, your thoughts create your reality, or your thoughts create your world. And what I've discovered as I've studied, some of the greatest minds in history have told us this. Your thoughts create your world. Often Wayne Dyer gets credit for that, but that's not new with Wayne Dyer. That's not new with Wayne Dyer. But it's great that he brought that message forward, because it is living from this higher consciousness. We must deal with our negative self-image, our old beliefs. We must deal with, as I often call it, as quoting the Matrix, our residual self-image, that we must work with our self-limiting beliefs, what Charles Fillmore, Unity's co-founder, called the erroneous beliefs. In other words, the false beliefs about ourselves, about what we're capable of. And we have to lift those thoughts into the light of God, to see them, to kind of love ourselves through them, and then seek a higher thought, right? And so think about that a moment. Like, think about just today, what negative thoughts have you had about yourself? What negative thoughts have you had about yourself? I've learned a thought I've had about myself in jiu-jitsu. I was working with the master himself, Professor Gucci, and I was in a lesson with him, and he was showing me something new, and I had, made a mistake, and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. And he said, he said, "You really don't need to apologize. As a matter of fact, don't apologize. I expect you to mess this up because you're just learning. I want you to just know you're always practicing and always learning." And so what I discovered as I thought about that later, I took it into my prayer time. I'm like, what is that about? And one of my thoughts, one of my negative limiting self-beliefs is, I should know. I should have known. Why don't I know? You're wrong for not knowing, and it's those thoughts that go around and around in my consciousness. Why didn't you know that? You should have known that. And so I investigated it. Well, I said, oh, yes. You know where that comes from? Because I was like, if I'm really saying this, I know this thought isn't new. And it is a limiting belief. And I was so glad the way he brought it up. He goes, now, wait a minute. And it got my attention. It's like, oh, yeah, what am I apologizing for? What am I apologizing for? Because I am learning. It's like, I shouldn't be in a different place because I haven't had the training. But there was some thought of, I should know, I should be better, blah, blah, blah. And that thought was clearly going in the lesson. As I looked back, I'm the youngest of so many kids in a very large family. And so much of my family and my siblings knew more than I did because I was the youngest. And I'll give you an example of where probably some of this limiting belief started. I was a kid, and we had my music teacher over. Her name was Barbara Pennington, and we were sitting around the dinner table, and we were talking about music we liked and listened to and things. And I said, well, I love opera. And okay, keep in mind, I was in 5th grade, okay? I said, I love opera, but I can't ever understand a word they're saying. And everybody burst out laughing. And I thought, what did I say? What did I say? And I had this feeling of shame, like I should have known. And later, so nobody told me then, but then later, I was talking to my teacher, and she said, you can't understand opera because it's being sung in a different language. And I was like, oh. Nobody thought to tell me that in the moment. They just thought, oh, here's a cute little kid not knowing anything about opera. But I thought I should have known that somehow. Everybody but me knew, you see. And so I can go back and see people didn't intend me any harm. They were simply enjoying the naivete of a fifth grader. And what I did, I took it in, meaning I did something wrong because everyone laughed. Yeah. So that was a learning for me. So friends, part of healing and working with our thoughts is being honest. Being honest with where we are, being honest with what our thoughts really are. And I think so many of us are so busy trying to look good and look like we have it all together that we miss the gifts of healing. We miss the gifts of healing because we're not willing to be honest with ourselves and what our inner thoughts are. A lot of times in psychology, people will call it your inner dialogue. And really what we're talking about when we're saying work with our thoughts, we're trying to bring to the surface those unconscious thoughts and see what they're telling us is wrong with us. And then not pretending we can just say, oh, okay, those thoughts are over. I'm going to put in a new thought. But it's working with how did those thoughts get there like I did? It took time to think about it. It took time to kind of trace back. And once I could trace back, I realized that thought could begin to lessen in my consciousness. I also know it's going to take a while because if I'm in my mid 50s and I've been thinking this way, for years, it's going to take a while. Well, that's okay because guess what? I'm learning and growing. One of the things we often say on the show is you are here to grow, prosper, and evolve. And that includes me. So the goal is to live from this higher consciousness. To do that, you have to deal with the lower consciousness that is kind of still going in your mind. It is, in fact, running you to a degree. Now, psychologically, these thoughts, these beliefs, this negative inner dialogue is often called the shadow. And it is the shadow self that is unconscious to us. That's basically what the shadow means is there's parts of us behaviorally or in our thoughts that are unconscious. In other words, we go through the world doing and thinking these things, thinking they're true, but because we don't bring them into the light of God, we don't really know they're there. And so when you're seeking to grow and you're asking spirit for guidance, for help, to live from soul, to be on purpose, to, move forward on the journey and such as that, once you learn that, once you gather your people together and you're getting the right support, well, you're going to be in a safe enough environment internally and externally to begin delving into those, aspects of self. One of the things we do on the Monday night talks, which has been a real gift to me, Sean, and I know you would agree with this, the depth of the sharing has so increased as those talks have gone on. Haven't you noticed that?
Yep, definitely. I think the more comfortable we get with it with each other,
right.
And I know that group actually has been working together for quite some time. So I'm still kind of a new member in that in that group, but I definitely am feeling a comfort level from everybody that seems to be growing the more that we do it, which is it's really nice. I mean, it's a great way to spend a Monday night. I mean,
it is, yeah. And if somebody said to me, "Is that a shameless plug?" The answer is yes, because I want you to be there. It's like I'm not shy about saying the fee is only $35 a month for 4 talks in a month. That's less than $10 a talk and a sharing. And for some people, they're saying this is as good or better than my therapy.
Yes. And there's, the Calm app that, I still pay for, but I mean, I know people are, putting money into getting this kind of, being fed spiritually. And, I think it's not us saying, oh, this is so good. Like we're so good. It's not, it's not about that at all. It's about really wanting more people to experience what this is, to experience going to bed on a Monday night after having this beautiful time of togetherness with people who are like-minded, and where we always end it with a meditation very quietly. The meditation ends and everyone just signs off, and it's just a beautiful. And by that time, it's usually around 9 p.m.
Around 9 o'clock. Mm-hmm.
And, and we all just sort of go off, and it's just it really is, it's beautiful. And I think we're all being, and so there's room for more, friends. Come.
Yeah, there is. And, friends, the truth is, as I'm saying all this, I'm asking myself, because I'm going to call myself on something right now in this is there some way I'm thinking about this that's not inviting more people in? Because I love that we do the podcast and we reach so many people, but I'm looking at, am I having limiting thoughts about how I think about it? That's why today I'm saying, I would love to have you. And I know it's a great deal for people. I think of what I spend financially on my soul growth and my psychological health. And I can tell you, I've never had a group where I only paid $35 a month for the kind of help and support that we give. So I'm really proud to be able to offer it, and I want to invite you into it. And exactly what I'm talking about today, I want to stay on this topic, is exactly what we're talking about. It's being honest with yourself and your process. And when you begin to get honest and get support from the group, that's when the growth really happens. So, you can listen to a podcast all day long, and if you're not applying the principles, if you're not also in community learning how to relearn and reshape your thinking, it's going to be really hard to do on your own. And it's one of the reasons we started the Soulworks community, is instead of limiting to like a mastermind that's like $250 for 8 weeks, which I love that I still offer one of those. We were trying to make something affordable so everybody could do it. And you could actively work on a weekly basis with a group that's going to unconditionally love and support you in your process. But it does require you being honest. It requires you showing up, and all those things. Right.
And support you daily too. So we start the week off with that Monday night talk, and then, all week long, we're putting stuff out. Other people are posting, prayer requests or things that have happened to them throughout the week, or things that they've read that inspired them. So it's not just us putting that stuff out there, but it's like, everybody come here to share your inspiration and how you're getting through, each week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what we know about our thoughts. Yes, Sean, that's so great you said that, because the idea of the network and the idea of the show today is to guard our thoughts. We want our thoughts to be focused on God, on goodness, on holiness, on peace, on love, on forgiveness, all of these beautiful things. And if we're constantly receiving and participating in negative messages, if we constantly have the news on, or we constantly are on social media, then we're not doing the work in consciousness to raise our own vibration, our own thoughts. And you've heard it said, thoughts are things, right? And so, it's why I seek to surround myself with people on purpose, with people that are willing to grow, with people that are willing to be vulnerable. And, my best friends personally are the people that we're growing every single day. We're praying every single day. We're meditating every single day. We're either journaling or reading or doing spiritual work. And friends, even though I'm a minister, I could not do any of those things and still be a minister. I wouldn't be a very effective one, but I could still do it. My commitment to my personal and spiritual growth is really separate from what I do for a living. And my closest friends are people that do that just love to grow. They love to work with their thoughts, to align and move in the direction of spirit, of elevating their thoughts about themselves and the world. Several years ago, it was about 3 or 4 years ago, and I had called a dear friend from school, and she's really a beautiful soul. She's been in recovery a really long time, and I called her and I said, man, I just need some support. She goes, you got it. And I said, something is really bothering me, and all I want to do is cry. And she said, oh, that's good. And I started laughing through my tears. I started laughing. I go, what do you mean? She goes, well, you and I both know crying is the most spiritual thing you can do, because you finally hit surrender. And I said, oh my gosh, see, I was even making my crying wrong. Isn't that wild?
That's beautiful.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Yeah.
She said that crying is the most spiritual thing you've ever done.
Wow.
Yeah. You finally hit surrender. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's good.
That is so good. Yeah, that is so good. So, friends, I want to help you guard those thoughts. Guard those thoughts because God has good intended for us. You will always hear me come back to this idea, and I've been talking about it all month, that unity of Daytona Beach, because, we've been talking about in depth, we've been talking about God's will for us is good. And, Jesus said, I came that you might have life and have it more abundantly, which includes all the good that God has for us. And thinking that you're not worthy, thinking that you're not good enough, and all of this is not what God has intended for us. This is what the world has put us through, kind of. But what we're seeking to do is get a new view of why those things happen, a new view of why those thoughts are there, and then how to heal. So we're seeking on a spiritual journey, on this soul journey that we always talk about, to rise up and out. And to rise up and out, we have to be honest with what's going on. We have to be honest with what our limiting thoughts are. And then true healing can happen. So my hope for you is that you consistently will desire to grow, prosper, and evolve, that you will consistently desire to grow spiritually, and that you will be seeking to, what I call, coming into consciousness on a daily basis. That you will be noticing, gosh, what is this? Why do I keep getting tripped up in this area? Why is this keep happening? This is a pattern. So if there's something that's a pattern and you don't know what it is, that's how you know there's something in the thought process that is out of alignment with God's good for you. And we all have those things, and we all have many of them. So the work is to continue to be honest, to have that resiliency of spirit as we desire to know more, as we desire to grow, prosper, and evolve, and then put ourselves in a group that we know that we will be loved and supported, that we know we will be blessed, and that we know as we're honest and vulnerable, we're going to see what needs to heal, and then have the courage to move through and heal. And yes, as my friend said, surrender. And surrendering to God is a beautiful thing, because it really will put things in perspective. You don't have to know, you don't have to be right, all those things I talked about today. So my hope for you really, really is that you will know, number one, God's will for you is good, that you are worthy, that you will begin to notice, what in my thought process, what in my thought processes are supportive of me, what are working against me, and then seek to heal that. This is our goal, and this is our intention on the spiritual journey of the evolving soul. It's like taking a trip through the mind in a very positive way, and seeing, how am I working against myself, rather than cooperating working in the best interest of my soul. We can convince ourselves of all kinds of things when we're being dishonest. And when we're honest, when we are bringing our thoughts into the light of consciousness, then God can really work with us in a really powerful way. So it does, friend, take a great deal of courage. And yes, as I said earlier, a great deal of resiliency to be willing to do this work. Not everyone is. But I know, if you're listening, that you are seeking to live a life of spirit. You are seeking to live from the center. And that might be a great affirmation to take with you during the week. Again, I am living from the center. I am living from the center. What were you going to say, Sean? Did you have something there?
Well, no, yeah, because we're totally on the same. I wanted to pop in and be like, let me leave you also, if I could just like pop in and say the affirmations or the things that really stood out to me, the things that I took notes on. And if you're a YouTube viewer, you see these things pop up on the screen.
Right.
Like when they hit me, I type them out real quick and I put them up there. But for our listeners, I am living from the center. That was the one I was just going to start with. Your thoughts create your world.
Yes. That's a big truth.
Yeah. Yes. I think hopefully everyone has experienced that to some level.
Oh,
but I know, maybe there are people who haven't yet, but it's so true. If you are constantly, down on things, that's going to be your reality. It's you really do live the life that you create, or how you think. Your thoughts create your world. I just love that.
I do too. Well, I talk about it in my book, Prosperity for You, that the consciousness of, which is classic lack consciousness, or, it's like, I call it Eeyore consciousness from Winnie the Pooh. Do you remember Eeyore?
Oh, bother.
Yeah. If you don't know what lack consciousness is, just watch Winnie the Pooh and you'll know all about it with Eeyore. Oh, bother. Everything is and then the opposite, is everything's going to work out. So it is a great teaching, Sean. Your thoughts create your world, and just knowing that one thing helps you start to wake up, most definitely.
Yeah. And then one more, be honest with, and I think you said, be honest with where and who you are.
Yes.
Be honest with where you are. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Really good stuff.
Yeah, friends, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always a pleasure and a blessing to have you along this journey we call life. And of course, we love to talk about the spiritual journey of the evolving soul. And that's exactly what we do here at Experience of the Soul podcast. So I want to mention again, if there's any way you can share this, whether it's on your social media pages, whether it's with a friend, hey, do a party and listen together, and then, have beverages and play games after. Just create a reason to get together for spiritual things if you don't have a community already. And I promise you, it's going to support your journey and your soul development. So we're honored to be a part of that. Again, thank you, Orlando listeners, for being a part of my journey for so long and supporting the show. And thank you, Sherry Anderson, my sister-in-law. I love you, honey, and thanks for listening. So to all of you listening all around the world, we are grateful and we are blessed. So we look forward to seeing you next week, and blessings on the journey, my dear friends.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson, helping you grow, prosper, and evolve. This podcast is made possible because of listeners and viewers just like you. If you would like to support the podcast with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head on over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Experience of the Soul podcast is copyright 2025, Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved, and is produced by Sean Kilgore. A production of the Soulworks Group, Incorporated. Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The Soulworks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. Soulworks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience, with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the Soulworks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.